All right, we are live. So happy Wednesday. Ben and Mike, thanks so much for joining today. And for the audience tuning in, my name is TJ Howski, Chief Executive Officer here at OTAVA. And I'll pause and give Ben an opportunity to introduce himself and Mike Caldwell an opportunity to introduce himself. So, Ben?
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Ben Tagasian. I am head of the sales team here at OTAVA.
Hello, everyone. My name is Mike Caldwell. I'm one of our solution architects here at OTAVA, and looking forward to the discussion today.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. All right. Well, if you are anybody in the IT space right now, you have heard about Broadcom, and certainly many of the changes that have continued to go on, and it's what I would call a true market disruption. Now, how you choose to perceive that, be it positive or negative, is entirely up to you, and I honor that. But the goal of today's call is just to continue to reinforce the messaging, to try to bring clarity in a period of time where a lot of folks are confused, and trying to get the right information about what do I do to take care of my business, right? So first, let me just say, as a as a fellow CEO in the space, and I've spent a tremendous amount of time since the announcement of the first program change, transitioning from 2023 to 2024. And then now a part of this change transitioning into the revised version. I can greatly appreciate the stress that comes with this, and the reactionary mode that you're in right now to try to convert reaction to strategic so that you can respond versus react. But I just want to say, like, I get it. And I think that's the goal that we're trying to communicate, our position as a partner going forward, is we get it. I understand the stress that comes with winning the customers to your business, to your platform, to your value proposition and the differentiation that you offer. And then you have these unexpected headwinds that they're material, that cause you to really have to rethink on the fly. How do I take the business forward, when on that Monday morning I was still planning on doing it the way that it was before the announcement. So let's just address the reality in the situation, and understand that it's normal. Like, and the mixed reactions that I've worked with people through is also normal. And I have my own. And I'll reserve those for private calls for those that want to talk about that. So, some housekeeping and Q&A. Ben will help us monitor the chat today, so feel free to post any questions that you have in there, and to the extent that we can answer them, we will. If we can't, we do a great job of follow up. I think one of the biggest responsibilities that we have right now is to just make ourselves available, to those folks that have questions. And so hopefully this webinar is just one way in which we're doing that, amongst other calls. So we did already introduce ourselves. Obviously, the pictures, AI does wonders. It shaves at least 10 years off your age. So I'm incredibly thankful for AI from that perspective. But excited to spend some time with you, with Ben and Mike, who collectively, I think we really do date ourselves. It's about 60 years of experience in this particular sector. So should be a fun conversation, and that's really the goal here, is not to present at you, but to just have a conversation together. So, well, let's set the stage. Certainly, folks are not unaware now. If you are, maybe you've been on vacation out of the country with no internet, but which happens, and good on you if you were. But let's set the stage that what's really gone on. So when you rewind the clock even a little bit further, fall of 2023, late fall, transitioning into 2024, there was a change from what was the legacy VMware service provider program to the new Broadcom Advantage program. And that introduced a tiered structured model where you had Pinnacle, Premier, and registered or standard partners that would be more narrowed in focus from the larger footprint of partners across the spectrum, to support what was this new program. Fast forward to not too long ago, when you look at July, and the communication that went out to the broader world was that this is now modified again to a more narrowed program focus with participation. And it's still the Advantage program, but in essence, it's narrowed down to a handful of specific, what is now classified as Pinnacle partners. Same registered status before, but they're using that designation on a carry forward basis for now. But why does it matter, and how does it affect people? Most specifically, and I think this is where I think chaos is the right word, kind of started with the initial announcement, is folks were trying to figure out what am I going to do with all of my workloads, all of my existing business. And I don't think that's, while that's part of the decision criteria over the next couple of years, that's not the first, necessary response when you think strategically about this. So just to take you through it, the clarity through the messaging delivered so far today has been, hey, this program comes to an end for the ability for non-authorized partners, or classified as departed partners in the Broadcom documentation, to acquire new business after November 1st. So you can acquire new logos and continue to do business as usual from the announcement till October 31st. So in between now and then, what you're really looking at is, one, what is your strategy relative to Broadcom? What do you want to do? Is that still a cornerstone within your your product set, and how you want to offer that? If it is, who are you partnering with, and how do you want to partner? And I think that's the important thing, is you have options and you're still the driver of your business. The goal is to engage your authorized partner and really help them get to know you. You get to know them as to what you're trying to do, and who that authorized partner is and what they represent. And then you make that decision first to support, winning new business and supporting new customers as of November 1st this year. Fast forward to March of 2027, you'll see the next change. And the next change says, okay, I want to know what that new program looks like at that point in time. None of us know. And we know that the current program in its current state and all the related elements will be sunsetted, and new contracts will be written, and the new program will launch. And so you have the ability to continue to conduct business on every customer that you've added between now and October 31st, and all of your previously existing customers until March of 2027. You can continue to add those to your current contract vehicles. The only major change is, as of November 1st, is having that authorized partner that gives you the procurement path and the sales vehicle to support you continuing to grow your business for new customer acquisition. So I'll pause there. It's a lot of news, and I know Ben is going to come in here and help bring some clarity around some things, and he's comes from the MSP space himself in different roles, and so he'll be able to give some color context to it. But that's the high over, for what's going on and why it matters, today. And many of you know this, but hopefully reinforcing it gives clarity of the change. So Ben, let's talk a little bit about how this impacts MSPs and resellers, right? So just gave the update of, like, here's what it is, just the facts, not the fiction. Milestone dates of November 1st, milestone dates of March 2027, and what this means. But when you're an MSP, and we obviously understand that well, you have quite a bit of burden, right, that lives on your shoulders for not only the existing customers that you serve and their go forward needs, but new customers that you want to acquire, your employees that you support as a business entity. There's a lot that goes in this, and being an MSP is not for the faint of heart if you're going to participate in this space. So why don't you talk a little bit about what you're seeing and many of the conversations you've been having with C-levels since this announcement in the MSP community?
Yeah, definitely. So with the MSPs and the conversations we've been having over the last, really over just the last month, it's only been a few weeks. The two routes to market that we've seen the most common for the MSPs, just depending on their size, is really as a service provider for the cloud, or as a management layer for that cloud, is probably the simplest way I can put it. In situations where we have MSPs that are managing an environment that they sold to the customer, there's perpetual licensing involved, hardware that's been sold to the customers, and it's more of a resell model plus management layered over it. Then the other type of MSP interaction we're seeing is more the cloud service providers that are similar to OTAVA, where they are hosting the entire stack, just like we do for our customers, from the hardware to the network layer to the VMware and Broadcom licensing, Windows, Linux, all of those things that bolt on to create the usable environment. In both of those instances, we can help our MSP partners and our customers. And the engagement is a little bit different. The route to market for the cloud service providers is much more simple. The business model doesn't change a whole lot. You just have OTAVA in the background servicing a portion of that environment for them so that they can continue operating and servicing their customers. The management model is a little bit different. There's slight changes there to the business model and how they acquire and deliver those services to the customer, but we can definitely still help there as well. I think OTAVA is a little more unique than our competitive landscape in that aspect, where we're able to assist our MSP partners in both of those models so that they don't have a lot of disruption in their business and their workflow to their customers.
Appreciate it. And I think it's good feedback, Ben. I think, the other question I have, just because you have spent a lot of time as you think about, um, the MSPs and their first reactions, right? Is, how have you communicated kind of calm in the storm, right? Because, if you're an MSP, this is a long game. No matter what Broadcom does from a technology perspective or a business leadership perspective, because those are two different things. MSP in general is it's a long game, right? So how have you helped, just kind of calm the waters and, opportunity to speak transparently here. I know some folks have received buy offers that are incredibly low. Like, hey, sell your customers. It's time for you to leave, vacate the space. Um, and we've tried to be very careful. And this is a message that I've delivered since day one is, anybody could have been on the other side of this, right? When you look at program changes, nobody expected these changes. And, but that's life, and how you respond matters and how you treat people matters. And, one of the messages that we've tried to say is like, we've been serving partners for the better part of a decade. And that's not a new thing to us. And many of our competitors, use our services to support their market space. But what we've been really reinforcing messaging now is like, hey, we'll partner with you. We're happy to have that conversation about what's differentiating in your business strategy. Where are you going? How can we enforce or support that growth, goal, rather than just how can we be a cost play, right? In a world in which you weren't asking for this. Let's just be transparent, right? So um, uh, an arranged marriage is always interesting, as I say. So, so Ben, why don't you speak to a little bit about that, just the calming factor and what you've seen, just patterns.
Yeah, that's a really good call out, TJ. The consistent messaging we're hearing from MSPs, like you mentioned, is that the other conversations they're having are much more direct. And hey, you've got to fit into this model. This is the specific way you have to operate. You don't have a choice. The kind of stance we're taking on our first couple of interactions with each of these organizations is really more education. We're not here to sell you anything. We're not here to force you onto the OTAVA cloud environment. What we really are doing our best at is trying to understand what their business model is first, and what sort of challenges they're dealing with. And then educating them on exactly what we're talking about here today, what that timeline looks like, what they can do, what they can't do, because there's so much confusion in the market, that people don't understand what the actual truth is. And once we go through that, a lot of times it's just, hey, let's keep in touch, and they really appreciate the honesty and the platform that we give them to just come in and ask questions and get real answers. Mike and a few other individuals at OTAVA, they're on a team that we have internally that specifically focuses on those MSP relationships. And we do that intentionally so that we carve out a portion of our team that only deals with MSPs. And the other piece of that that's important for MSP customers is they have that safety net where they don't have to worry about, are we going to go talk to their customers? Are we going to go around them to try to take that business away from them? We absolutely don't operate that way. All of that business stays within our MSP group, and all of those relationships roll up to each of those MSP partners that we have. We're truly built as a partner for partners. We keep talking about that on all of our publications and outgoing messaging. That really is how OTAVA is built. We're a partner for our MSP partners.
I appreciate that. Yeah. And I think that's an important distinction. I mean, if we just talk business for a second, right? I think if you're, and I've tried to work with our organization through this process to think, if we were on the other side of this, and I think that's the way that you need to do this well, what would I do? And obviously, your first reality is your cost model changes in this, even without costs going up, which right now they haven't been announced that costs go up, as it relates to current cores out there. Your model changes by the nature of the partnership change. And so my encouragement to a lot of my peer group that I've spent time with is how are you strategically evaluating interesting costs versus uninteresting costs? And where can you move some of those uninteresting costs for the lower level service work that previously maybe your in-house teams supported to free up your in-house teams to open up and unlock other profit expanding opportunities or other product offerings that you might want to bring in. Maybe this can be the blessing through the burden that shows up that says, hey, you know what, now's the time that we can pivot and start to do some of these other things that continue to further differentiate what you've already created, which is a really healthy brand with customers and the like, right? So that's been another interesting piece of this, and that goes to the partner of partners conversation is, sure, we can have a raw conversation that says, here's the cost of cores, here's your wholesale play, you can sell off your customers. OTAVA can have that conversation with you as well. I just don't think that's the play that most are looking for because, again, up until the announcement, you had a business strategy, you had something you were executing against, and now you're in reactionary mode. And the goal is to get back to response mode of strategically, how is this going to tuck in with what I was already doing, but now with these, new inputs that are informing that. So that's just my thoughts, similar to this space, because I've been spending a tremendous amount of time on these calls as well, and really have a heart for the situation, so. Mike, I know you've got some perspective. So before we move forward here, bud, you've played on a lot of different fronts, throughout your journey. But you're spending a tremendous amount of time, talking to folks today in the MSP community. Why don't you share a little bit about what you've been working and helping people through?
Yeah, absolutely. As Ben stated, I work in the team inside of OTAVA that purely deals with the MSP community, and so as you can imagine, we've been having daily conversations around what do I do, where do I go from here, and you guys have echoed it already, but we really want to jump on calls and bring information. We want to help guide people to the right answers. And in a lot of cases, we can help people, and there's some cases we might not be able to help specific MSPs in their situations. But we want to be good partners to everyone and really help navigate that. So a lot of the calls that we have, we want it to be informational. We want to reinforce that we're working together as partners and help navigate. As TJ said, it's confusing out there. There's a ton of misinformation, especially between am I a reseller, am I a cloud provider, what does that mean, can I be both anymore, what do I have to do with my hardware? So there's a lot of technical changes, there's a lot of discussions around that, but the first conversation is what am I going to do with my business, and how can I stay in business, what does this mean for my customers? And that there's a lot of fear and there's a lot of anxiety in the marketplace right now. And so our position is to try to help you, make calm and informed decisions. And we want that's our number one goal. We can get into the technical of cores and hardware ownership and reseller channel and all that stuff. But that's secondary to making sure that you feel that you can rely on us to steer you to the right harbor. So
Yeah,
that's
that's
mainly
a
the conversations we're having.
yeah, it's a great call out, buddy. I appreciate it, and it's I don't know, to the audience, right? It's the most human way that we can believe to present this. Just knowing, again, we have our own feelings about it. So, last for this section, I'll make this comment. I've shared this recently. I think part of the reality is, this is always a mixed bag. It's like I'm just waiting for Reddit to explode with this statement. But the truth is, Broadcom's platform isn't the issue, right? Like that's not really what people are upset about. Sure, we always have our opinions about what we would like to see them prioritize from a development effort and investment effort, to expand on feature sets that make it more interesting and appealing for the business issues that we're being presented with in the MSP community for customers that we serve. I think the reaction that people are having today, which is causing them to take big swings, is how they feel about how Broadcom's going about making these changes. And what I've tried to say is, I don't have inside visibility. I know what the stresses are that I deal with in my business, which is materially smaller than a 1.3 trillion-dollar market cap company. And I think that's the best approach that I can encourage folks taking is we don't know on the inside what they deal with, what their business strategies are, and I want to separate that from the technology because up until that announcement, those participating in the program believed it's a great opportunity. It's a great product set, to introduce. It remains a great product set. Now, please hear me. That does not take away from many other great platforms out there and product sets that support, different use cases, be it edge computing or containers or, so there's no one size fits all. But I think that we can all agree Broadcom's done a fantastic job, in this case, legacy VMware, of establishing themselves as pioneers and leaders in the market space, right? And so my encouragement to folks is don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. You had a pretty rooted business strategy coming into this. That's why responding is really important. And certainly, I think even Broadcom expects people will make changes, to what they need to do in their business to support their business outcomes, but do it in the most controlled manner, possible. Don't overreact on it. So, Ben, why don't you go ahead and advance the slide for us? All right, so where do you start next? Like, what comes up? I think we try to keep this easy, and what we've been, a lot of what we're sharing here is what we've been talking about with partners going through the changes. Look at your current commitments. What do you have? I know that for many folks, they made commitments as they stepped into this in the old program to get to the minimum core amount. Not everybody had exceedingly larger numbers of cores. Many people were on the bubble, and so they kind of what I call trued up to get into the lower tiered programs. And so maybe this is an opportunity, to my earlier comment of moving things around, interesting versus uninteresting costs. But you first start with just look at your contracts, make sure you understand what you have, what's under commitment, what's in use within your environment. And now knowing that you're in a position to have to make changes to your business, what changes can you make that maybe free up more opportunity for you to take advantage of some other vehicles like bring your own licensing? And Mike Caldwell's going to talk a little bit about that. Make sure you understand the renewal timelines for your customers. It's hard to keep everything coterminous to the end of the current contract program or the current program and the current contract versus what's now happening, right? You're getting a little bit out of cycle on that. So build a strategy around customer retention or customer migration. I understand that's just a part of the business, that goes. And then think about, your partner selection. What is that going to look like for you? What are the criteria, the decision criteria that you're looking for that's going to support your biggest decision between now and October 31st, which is who am I working with going forward? Who can I trust that's going to help me continue down my growth journey, but protect my customers and honor my culture, and my business vision. And then certainly in that authorized partner relationship, start to build the long game. What does it look like between, November 1st and March of 2027?
Yeah, so I'll jump in here to talk about some of the different licensing and compliance rules that we have to navigate as part of the changes here. So TJ alluded to this. The first thing we want to talk about is this bring your own license model. So many of the MSPs that we've talked to in different groups who made commitments based on cores, a lot of times made a higher commit than they actually were using. So you might have made 1,000 core commit, but you're only using 600 cores. And so this first program allows you to, as you work with OTAVA in the future going forward, you can effectively trade in those unused but committed cores, so it's the 400 in that example, and apply those to OTAVA services. So we can, if you're moving to the cloud with us or whatever way you want to engage, if we're providing a managed service, we can. There's some flexibility around. Hey, I have these unused cores that I'm committed to. Well, OTAVA can use those to help you out. So that's gives some flexibility, and in a lot of cases might provide some relief to try to make some changes here. The second thing too is, and mainly for end clients, we have a lot in discussions with a lot of MSPs who have end clients that are still on perpetual licenses, right? Haven't made the switch to the subscription-based model. In those scenarios, if your end clients are looking at making a move to the cloud, for in a private cloud, for example, they can, in a lot of cases, can take their perpetual licenses and move them into that private cloud with OTAVA. So there's some additional flexibility there as well to try to help clients make that conversion from doing things themselves on-prem into the cloud. With our MSP partners, they can still, manage that solution, right? So one of the benefits of working with OTAVA as an MSP is, we allow, kind of a white label service, so you can manage cloud for your clients, but it's our hardware, it's our solution, it's our managed offering to you, and you can manage that for your clients. So give some flexibility there. I think the important thing to not forget here is this October 31st deadline, right? So, as of October 31st, no new business can be conducted on those old agreements. So, what does that mean? You can still uh, use those agreements until the end of your contract. Most likely, that's March 31st, 2027, if you signed a 3-year term. But you can also co-term additional growth, existing business, for the lifetime of that contract until the end of March 2027. So it's going to be important for you to really partner with an authorized partner in the new program for new business, and be prepared to have, if you need to start contracting a different model, you want to be ready to do that. And all of your portal access that you enjoy today as part of that program, that will continue until that contract, that previous white label agreement ends. So if that's till 2027 or 2026, if you sign less than 3 years, you don't have to do anything in the old contract today, but we want you to be prepared to make the change to the new way to conduct business. So.
That's good. Thanks, Mike. Ben, go ahead, bud.
All right. So let's dive into how OTAVA can help you in this journey and how things are changing. There's a few things to keep in mind that we've reiterated a couple of times. You can continue to operate on your existing VCSP contracts with Broadcom if you were part of the group of 500 as an MSP or a cloud provider. What you can't do is grow additional business into those contracts. So for that period of time, you really have two options. You can continue that contract and then spin up an additional arrangement with OTAVA or one of the other providers in the in the new program, and continue your growth with that partner. So OTAVA can help you grow and service additional customers that you're bringing on board, and as you grow the business. The other option you've got there is to take advantage of the BYOL program and shift your existing agreement over to OTAVA and then bolt OTAVA onto that, so you're growing in a more manageable way, so you don't have two separate islands that you're managing within the business for your Broadcom relationship. The migrations we can handle for you. We can migrate your workloads from where they are today to any new environments that get stood up, making sure that you have continuity, minimal downtime, and you're able to continue servicing your customers. We can also help you put together customer retention playbooks to protect against any sort of churn with some of the uncertainty that the market has with its reflection on Broadcom, just given what changes the industry is going through right now. And then the most important part for our MSP, CSP partners is really that non-competitive approach. We make sure to sign, obviously, the documents and the agreements that keep both parties accountable. And then the way that we operate with our partner community is very specific, so that there's a non-competitive approach between the two organizations and how we move forward. The other piece that we'll go over, there'll be a QR code on the very last slide that takes you to the page within our website, is that for this period of time, at least for now, we might extend it later, we're essentially providing free services to any of our MSP and CSP partners that are bringing their business over to OTAVA, whether that's new business that they're expanding into or their existing core infrastructure that they want to move over to OTAVA. That gives you several months of time where you don't have to pay a penny for the environment that we stand up for you, so that you don't have overlapping costs and you can make a smooth transition without any impact on the financial side of things. The last piece that I'll leave you with there is the timeline again. We can start those conversations now, and then November 1st, you've really got to decide what you want to do. November 1st. That's the key deciding factor that all of our MSP and CSP partners should be focusing on. Between now and October 31st, you're essentially business as usual, but what you do need to decide between now and then is, what are you going to do come November 1st to continue capturing new business, continue booking business in your pipeline so that you're not disrupting your sales pipeline, your customers, their projects, their expansions. That's the target we're encouraging people to focus on. And then from November 1st going forward, what that looks like in your environment.
Thanks, Ben.
Yep.
All right. So retain, transition, and grow, right? That's kind of the big three things that you're thinking through here. Ben, you can jump forward, take folks to the QR code as we land the plane. So what are your next steps? First, build your transition plan with an authorized partner. We talked about auditing your commits and your contracts and really understanding where you are and what your current cost of ownership is. That way you can identify interesting versus uninteresting costs and have that really quality conversation with whoever you select. And then align your long-term strategy through the authorized partner, to help you continue to take your business down the path that you probably were previously on. If you want to jump forward, Ben, I think I'll close it with this, and you can obviously scan the QR code, and follow. You can click subscribe, like through YouTube. You can track us on LinkedIn. There's a million different ways to get connected. You can have my cell phone number. I'll send that out to you. I got plenty of people that reach out that way. But let's talk a little bit about move your VMware to OTAVA, pay nothing till 2026. It's not a sales play. Let's talk about why I asked for this to be done when I worked with finance and talked to sales about this. Remember what I said at the beginning of the call, which is we are you. The only difference is we're on the other side of this with new obligations as an authorized partner. So we each have our bag to carry on this one and what this is going to look like. And disruption is disruption, and it is affecting us all the same. But there's some things that are nuanced for each of us that we have to think through. The last thing that I wanted for folks was to be very focused first on just cost, because I think if you just try to play a cost play on this, it's going to put you in the wrong side of your strategy. I think your first responsibility is to take a look at how does VMware fit going forward? How do you maximize, VCF? How do you take advantage of the platform itself that you've already been selling? And what is that going to look like for you going forward? If in the near term you need to support, just pipeline that already exists in your business and that has to convert, we all understand the law of the lag and what sales actually look like in the MSP world. That's your biggest disruption risk right now, is how do you make sure that those opportunities that are very real for your business don't get disrupted? And that is what this represents. This gets you through to 2026. This lets you convert your sales pipeline. This lets you really not modify much of your sales motion while you think through your bigger strategy. And many of you aligned to traditional calendars are thinking through your budgets and your strategic plans right now. So that was why we put this together, was like, let's help you. We understand that, we're not talking about mass migrations right now. Now, certainly you have the options. You can sell out and take pennies on the dollar, in my opinion, for what's happening right now, and that would be a reaction. And I've seen the messaging that's going on out there to do that, and I have my opinion about it, which is you knew the value of your business before this change. Don't guess the value of your business based on whether people are telling you. Slow down, take a look. You know what your customers are. You know what your brand represents. You know your goodwill. Don't fall trap to that. We don't have to take that kind of an approach in this, right? So as you look at this and you want to schedule some time, know that the way we're talking to you today is the way we're going to talk to you on the phone. It's just a transparent conversation. We recognize that there is a lot of business right now that is being moved over the next 18 to 24 months. And there are different reasons to select different partners. And we understand that, we're not the right fit for everybody. But we do understand that for those that we are the right fit for, we've made a meaningful impact. And that's why we appreciate the opportunity to partner. That's why we're here today, is to say, we remain open for business, so to speak, from a Broadcom authorized partner perspective, and would love to help you, but want to do it in a way that is, more business oriented and less opportunistic in the moment. So that's all I have. Mike, Ben, do you have any closing comments that you want to add?
We've got a good question in the chat from Sarah. She's asking, will OTAVA work under my brand so my customers don't feel like they're being handed off? Mike, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, sure. So, as we talked about before, and just to reiterate, we really set ourselves as the partner of partners. So when at all possible, we want to work through you. We want you to be our partner. We're not interested in going after your clients. We want to empower you to continue your business as much as possible. Okay. There are some contractual motions where we might have to contract directly with your client. But in most cases, that's not the case. But there might be some where we have to. You'll be in the call with us. We would never engage your client without you in the room in every conversation. Just I want to be that very clear. We're interested in empowering you as our partner and as our client. So hopefully that answers that question.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
a great question.
Oh, go ahead, TJ.
Oh no, go ahead, Ben. I'll comment after. Go ahead.
Yeah, but I was going to add to what Mike mentioned there. The primary way that we function with our MSP and CSP partners is really direct with the partner, not through the customer. Think white label, if that's an easier way to understand it. Most of our MSP and CSP customers don't know who OTAVA is in the back end, right? Because they're generally still interacting with their provider, their MSP, and most of the services, the management layer, all the things that you bring that's valuable to your customers, not just hosting, but all of the other bolt-ons, all of the value you bring to those relationships, that stays with your organization. And even the cloud piece, it's what I would call co-managed in a lot of ways, and we can draw that management line further up the stack, further down the stack, depending on how you operate and how you're staffed within your organization. So in the majority of cases, your customers don't even know who we are on the back end. But like Mike mentioned, if there's a desire on your end for your customers to interact and contract directly with OTAVA, yes, we can absolutely do that as well, and make sure that you're involved every step of the way, both pre and post contracting, so that you still have control over those relationships.
Yeah, that's good. And Sarah's question is a pretty common one. We're seeing this a lot, and
Yeah.
so I would say this from my perspective here in my role, and that is, at the end of the day, your customers don't need to feel the impact of this. How you choose to communicate what is going on is the difference between, a good relationship and a bad relationship with your customers. And we are not going to insert ourselves into the center of that. We do have some partners that will ask, hey, would you be willing to talk to my customer and explain the differentiation with OTAVA, why we're working with you, powered by, so to speak, right? And what kind of thought leadership, technical expertise, business leadership can you bring? And we've done that for many partners. But at the end of the day, behind the scenes is really our role. And so that's the goal here. But it is important that, your customers still understand what's happening in the market, why you're making these changes. And I think that's what's going to help a lot through this, is just calm the storm, because they're getting the information from Reddit, they're getting the information, from Facebook, you're getting the information from Instagram. No joke, I've seen all these things going on everywhere right now. They're getting it through email, but they might be getting more fiction than fact. And so this is your opportunity to continue to reinforce your value as the customer's partner already. And if we can help add value there, then we will, right? So, all right. Well, I don't see any other questions in the chat, Ben, do you?
Nope, that's the only one.
Cool. All right. Well, I want to say thank you for your time. And again, please click the QR code. Feel free to reach out to any one of us. First initial, last name at otava.com. So you're welcome to send that out as well. My last name's Houske, Houske. You can find it on the website as well. So feel free to reach out. No obligation, no pressure. And that's the approach we're going to continue to take. But hopefully what we added today was just level of clarity and calmness to a situation that's naturally chaotic. So we appreciate everything. We appreciate your time, and hope you have a great rest of your day.